A single glossy black eye reflects the morning sun from the rusted bracket of a street lamp, steady and unblinking. Below, a homeowner steps onto a manicured lawn, carrying a plastic tray of leftover bread and seasoned suet, completely unaware that their every movement is being cataloged, timed, and analyzed. To the untrained eye, the suburban backyard is a sanctuary of peaceful coexistence, a deliberate haven where humans offer charity to the wild. But beneath the surface of this domestic ritual lies a complex, invisible network of avian surveillance and cognitive computation that turns our well-intentioned gestures into a biological minefield. We believe we are merely feeding the birds, yet we are actually introducing silent, neurotoxic disruptions into an ecosystem governed by creatures with a sophisticated awareness we are only beginning to decode. The sharp, calculated gaze of a hooded crow shifting its weight on a frost-covered power line is not driven by simple hunger, but by a highly evolved neural architecture designed to exploit human patterns. As the homeowner drops a handful of processed crackers into a wooden feeder, the microscopic ridges on the bird's charcoal-colored claws register the subtle vibrations of the structure, while its brain processes the scene with a visual frame rate nearly twice as fast as our own. What we perceive as a harmless treat appears to the avian eye as a glowing, salt-encrusted anomaly. When a house sparrow darts down to seize a crumb of white bread, its complex digestive tract is immediately forced to grapple with a massive influx of refined carbohydrates and bleaching agents. This seemingly minor dietary shift triggers a cascade of metabolic stress, quietly altering the delicate pH of the avian gut and stripping away the vital, protective microbiome required to fight off aggressive environmental pathogens. The deception deepens within the hidden microscopic world of the common backyard bird bath, where stagnant water under the shade of a heavy oak branch becomes a crucible for unseen neurological threats. A blue jay with brilliant, cobalt blue primary feathers descends to the stone basin, its sharp beak dipping into a film of invisible organic residue left behind by decomposing autumn leaves. Homeowners often mistake this frequent splashing for a sign of vibrant health, missing the grim reality that these shallow pools frequently harbor deadly concentrations of a specific, slow-acting neurotoxin produced by cyanobacteria. As the jay drinks, these microscopic organisms secrete chemicals that systematically target the avian central nervous system, beginning with a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor in the fine muscles surrounding the bird's throat. Within days, this chemical disruption compromises the bird's spatial orientation, transforming a creature capable of navigating thousands of miles into a disoriented traveler, unable to judge the distance between a solid brick wall and the open sky. This hidden crisis extends far beyond the water's edge, deeply embedded in the very architecture of our modern landscaping choices. Consider the pristine, deep green lawns treated with synthetic fertilizers and systemic insecticides, where a robin tilts its brick-red breast toward the soil, listening intently for the faint, rhythmic vibrations of an earthworm moving through the dirt. When the robin strikes, its yellow beak pulling the invertebrate from the damp earth, it ingests not just a source of protein, but a concentrated dose of chemical compounds engineered to persist in the environment for months. These synthetic molecules do not always kill the avian predator instantly. Instead, they slowly accumulate within the fatty tissues of the brain, gradually eroding the structural integrity of the hyperstriatum, the specific neural hub responsible for avian learning and innovation. The bird begins to exhibit subtle behavioral anomalies, such as a localized failure to recognize the specific, high-pitched alarm calls of its flock, or a sudden fatal delay in its instinctual flight response when the shadow of a stalking domestic cat falls across the grass. The true scale of this cognitive and physical disruption becomes glaringly evident during the transition from late autumn to early winter, a period when local bird populations rely most heavily on human intervention. In a quiet cul-de-sac, a heavy wooden hopper feeder is filled to the brim with commercial sunflower seeds, its weathered edges stained with the oils of countless winter survival strategies. A black-capped chickadee, balancing its tiny feather-light body on a frozen pine needle, selects a single seed, unaware that the humid environment inside the feeder has allowed a microscopic fungus to flourish across the entire batch. This fungus produces a potent, invisible chemical known as aflatoxin, a silent killer that binds to the avian liver and disrupts the bird's natural ability to regulate its body temperature during freezing nights. As the chickadee flies back to its winter roost in a hollow birch tree, the internal damage begins to manifest, lowering its metabolic efficiency and causing it to burn through its vital fat reserves twice as fast as normal, turning a well-meaning winter feast into a lethal trap before the sun rises. Behind these physical threats lies a deeper behavioral anomaly shaped by the way urban environments alter the natural foraging decisions of highly intelligent species. A common raven perched on a rusted metal dumpster behind a suburban grocery store watches a human discard a half-eaten strip of cured bacon onto the asphalt. The raven's massive charcoal beak twitches as it calculates the risk of descending, its advanced cognitive mapping system replaying past human interactions to ensure the coast is clear. While the high-fat content of the human food provides an immediate, dense burst of calories, the extreme sodium levels create an intense artificial dependency that disrupts the bird's natural migratory cues. Instead of dispersing across the landscape to forage for diverse, nutrient-rich wild prey like insects and small rodents, the raven becomes anchored to this single toxic resource point. This behavioral lock-in effectively traps the local population in an evolutionary dead end, substituting a varied, resilient diet with a monotonous, chemically altered food supply that stunts the growth of the next generation's feathers and permanently dulls their problem-solving capabilities. The true consequence of this artificial ecosystem emerges when these dietary disruptions collide with the profound cognitive machinery of the avian mind, specifically its capacity for long-term memory and social learning. In the high canopy of an old-growth maple tree, a breeding pair of American crows observes a human walking down a suburban sidewalk. These birds are not merely watching, they are utilizing an intricate form of episodic memory, a mental time travel machine that allows them to replay past human encounters frame by frame, identifying specific facial features, walking gaits, and even the unique color of a frequently worn jacket. When a homeowner unknowingly provides a toxic food source, the corvid brain does not immediately link the subsequent internal malaise with the offered treat. Instead, the subtle neurological degradation caused by chemical additives disrupts their facial recognition centers, scrambling the intricate social maps these birds use to navigate the human landscape and causing them to misidentify benign neighbors as immediate existential threats. This cognitive fracturing ripples outward through entire avian communities via a process known as cultural transmission. When a dominant flock leader experiences the early, disorienting stages of low-grade chemical poisoning from mold-contaminated backyard corn, its behavioral anomalies are observed and copied by younger, impressionable juveniles. The young birds watch their elders stagger slightly on a rusted iron railing. It's usually precise, rhythmic vocalizations, dissolving into an erratic series of clicking noises. Misinterpreting this neurological failure as a novel foraging strategy or a structural defense mechanism, the juveniles mimic the altered behavior, embedding a functional deficit into the collective memory of the local population. The invisible toxins we introduce do not just damage individual organs, they systematically corrode the fragile, cross-generational knowledge systems that urban wildlife relies upon to survive inside our concrete landscapes. Consider the intricate internal compass of a migratory songbird, such as a white-throated sparrow, resting in a dense thicket of ornamental shrubs that have been treated with systemic neonicotinoids. As the sparrow consumes small, infected berries, the chemical compounds migrate directly to its forebrain, specifically targeting the cluster of specialized cells known as cluster N, the precise neural seat of the bird's magnetic night orientation system. Under the cover of a crisp October darkness, the sparrow launches into the night sky, intending to align its flight path with the invisible magnetic highways of the Earth. Instead, the chemically altered neurons fire erratically, blinding the bird to its natural navigational cues. It begins to fly in wide, frantic circles over the bright, artificial glow of suburban street lamps, its physical energy draining rapidly as it mistakes the hum of a high-voltage transformer for the natural frequency of the horizon, eventually collapsing from exhaustion onto a cold concrete driveway. The danger reaches a critical climax within the structural design of the modern nesting box, a device intended to foster new life but frequently transformed into a highly localized environmental hazard. A black-capped chickadee lines a cedar nesting cavity with soft moss and animal fur, unaware that the pressure-treated lumber used to construct the box contains trace amounts of copper and arsenic compounds designed to repel boring insects. As the summer heat intensifies, the temperature inside the wooden enclosure rises, causing these heavy metal vapors to off-gas directly into the confined space. The developing embryos inside the delicate, speckled eggs absorb these microscopic particles through their porous shells, permanently altering the development of their hyperstriatum before they ever hatch. When the chicks finally emerge, their motor skills are profoundly compromised, leaving them unable to coordinate the complex, asymmetrical wing movements required to successfully fledge from the nest box and escape the jaws of ground predators waiting below the pine needles. Even our attempt to provide basic structural shelter can introduce catastrophic biochemical traps, particularly through the use of synthetic materials in modern landscaping and construction. A mourning dove, searching for nesting material along the edge of a gravel driveway, selects a few strands of bright blue plastic twine discarded from a recent home renovation project. To the dove's highly specific visual spectrum, which perceives ultraviolet light with intense clarity, the vibrant blue strands flash like natural fiber, making them highly attractive additions to its fragile platform nest. Over weeks of incubation, the heat from the bird's breast causes the synthetic polymers to slowly degrade, releasing microscopic plasticizers and endocrine-disrupting chemicals that adhere to the bird's feathers. When the adult preens, transferring these compounds from its plumage to its beak, the chemicals mimic natural hormones, prematurely shutting down the production of crop milk, the nutrient-rich fluid essential for sustaining the newly hatched squabs who quietly starve within their synthetic cradle. The final verdict on our relationship with urban nature forces us to confront an uncomfortable paradigm shift. We are no longer just passive observers of the wild, but active, unwitting engineers of its neurological decline. Every chemical spray applied to a dandelion, every unwashed plastic feeder left to bake in the afternoon sun, and every highly processed food scrap dropped onto a backyard patio acts as a silent pen, rewriting the evolutionary trajectory of the creatures that share our world. The sharp, calculated gaze of the crow on the power line remains fixed upon us, not with the simple anticipation of an animal waiting for a handout, but with the profound adaptive intelligence of a survivor documenting the unpredictable behavior of a dangerous neighbor. To truly protect these hidden minds, we must look past the superficial joy of the backyard feeding ritual and recognize that our primary responsibility to the wild is not charity, but the preservation of an unpolluted, chemically unaltered reality where their ancient, sophisticated intelligence can map its own path forward.